Okay.
Is that, it's on? Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments for Thursday, June 20th, 2019. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Directors Williams,
Here.
Hart,
Here.
Hartman,
Here.
Adam, Levanino, Waite, Rubalcaba, Mosby, Perotti, Clark,
Here.
Murillo,
Here.
Sierra,
Here.
and Chair Patino.
Here. Could you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, do we have any requests to speak for public comment?
Chair Patino, we have no public comment.
Okay. Moving right along. Do we have anyone that needs to recuse themselves from the consent calendar? Oh, Mr. Williams?
They're general ones. I don't know if the attorney, do I need to do L?
I have 4L, 4M, 4N, and 4P. Is that correct?
Okay. That sounds about right.
Okay, thank you. Any other directors that would would like to pull any items or need to recuse themselves from the consent calendar?
I'll just move the balance of the agenda.
Oh, wait, I have a 4L down here to be pulled.
Do you want me to make a motion on the balance of the agenda and then recuse myself? Because L is one of the ones.
I know. Yeah. One moment.
Madam Chair, I'd
Yes.
just like to make a correction on item 4K. The contract that was included in the agenda that was originally posted did not include the consumer price index increase that would annually occur for this contract. So we amended that contract and reposted with the corrected attachment B, Exhibit B, Attachment 1B, for the schedule of fees. So I just want to make that correction before you take action.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have
Yes.
a correction to the minutes, if that's appropriate to do at this time. I was
Yes.
not there at the May 16th. I think it said that I was there. It was my alternate, Stuart Chaston, Councilmember Chaston.
Okay. Okay, any other corrections, additions, omissions? Anyone wants, okay, you wanted to pull item L? We can. Okay, Director Williams, then we can, that's a motion. What, 1 minute, I'm getting a,
Any public comment? Ask for public comment.
any public comment on the consent? Okay, hearing none, okay. Director Williams, then, you made the motion?
For the balance of the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further discussion for the balance of the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor? Go
Roll
ahead,
call.
roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Okay,
Roll call. Okay, Director Williams,
aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Adam, Levanino, Rubalcaba, Mosby, Perotti,
Aye.
Clark, Murillo,
Aye.
Sierra,
Aye.
and Chair Patino.
aye,
Motion passes 12-0.
okay. Okay, now, Director Adam on L.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that CEC is not really a neutral party they don't seem to be a entity that does public outreach for that purpose. They're more political advocates, and I'm wondering how we ended up with them doing the outreach here.
Madam Chair, I think
You're talking about item I.
item I.
Oh, am I on
Okay.
I? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
I.
Okay,
aye.
thank you. Let me bring that up.
Did we just approve that?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know my.
We can bring
alphabet.
that back for discussion and pull that.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Item I, we did a request for proposals, and we received only one proposal. And this firm, when we went through the criteria included in the request, they met all the criteria. We also had an evaluation team that evaluated, including members from the county as well as my staff, and I think that was it. And this was presented to the TTAC for their recommendation. It was a split vote, so it wasn't unanimous that we move forward with this contract. If the board would like, we can continue this item to the next month. My staff here that was in charge of this procurement process is on vacation today. If you want to pull this item, we'll continue it until the next meeting and propose possible different items or different options.
I'm kind of wondering how it is that we came up with one bid on this. I mean, doesn't that strike anybody as strange?
The cost associated, we did reach out to other firms we thought would bid on it, and they said the cost wasn't high enough for them to, they thought the work that needed to be done to outreach to the most disadvantaged members of our community would cost more for them to do. So the $75,000 budget wasn't enough for them to bid on, and they didn't feel it was worth the risk of their time and effort. So if there is an issue with this contract, I would recommend we continue it. I'll have my staff look at other options. We could do this work in-house, or we could possibly do something else. So I'd like to take the time, if there are issues and concerns, that we bring it back to the board.
Before we do that, maybe if I could ask you a couple more questions, maybe I'd withdraw my objection. What kind of controls are we going to have on this? Are you going to look at the content before?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Basically, this is an assisting of my existing staff. Michael Becker of our staff will be the project manager and will lead this effort. It's a major effort for us. It's our regional transportation plan and public outreach. So this will be one component to outreach to those disadvantaged groups. It wouldn't be all encompassing, but it would assist us in reaching out to those areas that we don't feel that we have the connections to or the wherewithal to do that. But we could do that, and we could try again. We tried this at our last time when we did the RTP update, and we barely got any participation from this segment of our community. So we're trying something different because we felt we weren't as successful as the last time, but yeah.
Okay, so basically you're going to provide them with the materials and the information.
Correct.
And they're going to go out and speak to disadvantaged community.
Yes, and
About
facilitate
it.
their participation. So
Okay.
getting them to meetings that my staff will be there and presenting the information, but it will be that connection and engagement.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'm not as concerned about that as I was. Anybody else concerned about that?
I do share your concerns, and if it could be done in-house, to me, that would seem more appropriate.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion.
Well,
Hi.
if you want
Chair
to
Patino?
come
Yes.
back and talk about it.
Chair, Director Hartman?
Oh, I just wanted to say, we use nonprofit organizations quite frequently to do some work for us. They often can do it at a lesser cost. I think of the Santa Barbara County Trails Council doing the interim coastal trail analysis. With regard to CEC, they do the various Solarize San Ynez Valley, Solarize Santa Barbara, and in that process, they've built quite a network of connections. So I think they have that kind of network that would be really valuable for us to tap into.
Well,
Thank you.
I would just say that if anybody wants to talk about this some more and come back next time, I'd be willing to second that motion or make the motion. But
Thank you.
if nobody else is concerned about it, then I'm going to drop it.
Director Lavanino?
Thank you. I'm just curious what the options were at TTAC, or what was discussed.
You know, I apologize.
Well, let's just, so bring it back.
What?
So when your staff's here,
Y-
probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was with the mayor and
Okay.
Director
No problem.
Hart in reviewing the agenda. So I went back after this item was discussed, ironically, because we had the same discussion when we reviewed the agenda on our conference call. So I hear that there are concerns. I think it would be in the best interest of the board to bring it back so we can have a more thorough discussion on this item at your next meeting. So.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second to bring it back? Okay, Director Mosby. Okay, oh,
And
Ms.
Madam
Van
Chair, is
Miller?
that just to continue it to the next meeting?
continue it? Yes, that'd be fine. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure.
Fine, continue to the next, okay.
Directors Williams? Oh, he's gone, sorry. Hart?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Levanino? Rubacava? Mosby? Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, Ms. Contreras, could you please read item 5 into the record?
We need to take a roll call or a motion for items 4L, M, N, and P.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
The other L.
The other L. Okay. 4L, 4M, N, and 4P. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve those items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Contreras, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Director Hart?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam? Levanino? Rubacava? Mosby? Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, moving on now to item 5.
Okay. Item 5, Federal Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, loan update. Receive presentation on recent activities related to SBCAG's exploration of a Federal Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, loan and provide feedback to SBCAG staff on next steps.
And the staff presentation will be made by Sarkis Kachek. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Directors. Good morning. So today I was joking a little bit with Director Kern. I wish I had a crystal ball with us today to talk about this item because it's a really challenging one in terms of where we're at with the current market and then what our needs are going to be for financing for the Measure A program. But at the very least, we wanted to give your board an update of where we're at in terms of exploring financing options for the Measure A program and for the US 101 HOV project. And so we do have a PowerPoint. I'm not sure if it's probably not getting loaded, but there it is. But you also have copies of the PowerPoint, and then there's also a memo attached, which is going to be referencing, which the PowerPoint will be referencing to. So in terms of background, oh. I sent it. I don't know if the internet's worked or whatever. It's on the cloud somewhere? Yeah. Hopefully it's a nice cloud. Okay. That's fine. Everyone has copies of the PowerPoint. So while we have innovative project delivery with our US 101 HOV project, and we're going to have financing needs, we are also exploring innovative financing for the project. And as part of our federal legislative program and through our Measure A strategic plan financial memo, SBCAG is looking at financing options for the Measure A program and US 101 HOV. The need for the financing is that we are going to have some large expenditures for the 101 HOV project coming up, and we need to make sure that we have the necessary Measure A balance.
Madam
to-
Chair, excuse me, Circus. I just wanted since it's not up on the screen, and I don't believe the directors in the South County have it. We have some board members that have copies, and then the public's not able to see it. So do
Rachel,
we have copies?
We've got copies.
Excellent. Okay.
Just maybe telling us what slide we should be on
Sure.
would be good.
Okay.
And then Madam Chair, I just want to make sure there are extra copies available if there's any public in the South County.
Okay, thank you.
There are extra copies, but there are no members of the public here.
Okay. My apologies on that one. So we were looking at the slide called page 2 in the bottom corner. As I mentioned, we're going to need some financing for the Measure A program. Okay, the second slide. Second slide, page 1. Background. Okay, sorry. This is really good. It's a long day yesterday. I apologize.
I think it's the haircut.
We're on the background slide. We're going to need financing for the Measure A program to make sure that we have necessary cash flow for the local programs and regional programs in Measure A. We're going to need approximately $60 million in financing in fiscal year 23-24. So we're not there yet, but we're still trying to make sure that everything is lined up so we are prepared for that financing need. So we do have two options that we're considering at this point. One is a traditional bond issuance that we did under the Measure D program, which helped us deliver projects in Measure D and also helped us keep a balance for the program. The other option that we're exploring through our federal legislative program and through options at the federal government is called a TIFIA loan. And so it's a loan from the federal government, which provides benefits that a bond issuance does not. And so we are doing our due diligence on that. So now I'm going to proceed on to the third slide on the first page called TIFIA loan. And it has a nice little logo of the Build America Bureau at the top. We once we learned of this idea that we explored with Director Hart is that the federal government through the Build America Bureau does have a program called TIFIA, and it takes some time to go through the process. But when we were in Washington D.C., we did meet with the Build America Bureau. We received positive feedback on our project and where we're at. What we're doing is by doing this financing option, we're going to be paying it back with our Measure A funds. And other agencies that receive these types of loans, they may be using tolling facilities to pay back their loans in addition to Measure funds. And so it's a little bit extra layer for them, but for us, it's a cleaner process. And so what we did was, and I'm moving on to the next slide, TIFIA versus bond issuance. We did acquire some consulting help on this through Fieldman Rolap. They actually specialize in TIFIA loans. They're part of the Build America pool of firms that help out public agencies with these loans. And they've helped us analyze the difference between a TIFIA loan and a bond issuance. Okay, TIFIA versus bond, please. Okay, so on this screen, we've laid out what it looks like in terms of the fees for doing a TIFIA versus a bond. The variance is about $60,000 between a TIFIA loan and a bond issuance. One thing with the TIFIA loan, and just to let you know that there is additional time needed with the TIFIA loan between a year and a half. A bond issuance would be 6 months before we actually need the funds. So that's why we're doing our due diligence now. So there's a difference about $60,000. The bond issuance, if we do that in fiscal year 22-23, is going to be that $587,000 amount. If we commit to pursuing a TIFIA loan at this point and submitting a final application in the fall, we're going to have to commit $250,000 up front. So if we make that commitment and then we go down the road and realize that a couple of years from now that interest rates on a bond are going to be better for us and help the program better, then we're not going to be able to recoup the $250,000. So we just wanted to let the board know, let TTAC know of that risk that we'd be taking if we do submit a TIFIA loan, and then down the road interest rates change. Next slide, please. Okay, so this one is got a lot of information. It's very financial in nature, but the message here is that right now, if we lock in our rates today, then the TIFIA option benefits us if the interest rates do rise a couple years from now. So as of today, TIFIA is an option that would help us. If interest rates stay the same, however, then the bond option is going to be the better option. So this is sort of where we're at this point, and that's why I wish I had a crystal ball. So it's hard to tell. As I think folks have been familiar with, the interest rates have been dropping, which has been helpful. But between now and 3 years from now, it's hard to tell what's going to happen. So that's where we're at in terms of the impact of debt service between the TIFIA and the bond. And so I will pause there if there are any questions.
I have a question. Aren't you going to lock this in?
Yes. So if we submit the application in the fall to the Build America Bureau, then we would be able to lock our interest rate in right now about March of 2020.
And how many years is that money?
The locking in the rate, how
The
long does it
TIFIA.
last? I think it's there until we actually need the funding. There is no limit on how long.
No, but when do you have to pay it back by?
Oh, so would be paying it back through 2040. So once we get the loan, then
20 years.
20 years.
Okay. All right.
Director Mosby?
Did I get you wrong? Did you say that the loan was better than the bond?
At this point, so right now it says present value of the debt service, and so I'm going to actually pause. I'm going to let Martha.
Doesn't it say
our CFO.
54 million for the loan and 52 million for the bond?
The bond is better.
Today, I thought you just said that the loan would be better today.
I may have said that incorrectly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Director Sierra?
Just a quick question. You said it, and I didn't write it down quickly enough. The bond, if we go for it, then it takes 6 months to process
Yes.
for the bond. The TIFIA, how long does that take to process?
Between a year and a half.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Director Labanino?
I'm just curious on when you start figuring a year and a half out, things can change substantially in administrations and all those kind of things. Is there if there's a change at the top, is this a policy? I mean, how is the TIFIA, under what department is that, and how does that all?
The TIFIA loan is through the Build America Bureau, and they're under the Federal Highway Administration. And so it's under the Secretary of Transportation that is deciding on the loan. Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Sarkis.
Thank you. Okay, so the next slide has more information on the benefits between the TIFIA and the bond. So on the bond, when we issue the bond, we will receive the funds all at once, and then we will have 3 years to spend the money. And so that is one way of doing the financing. But if we get the TIFIA and we get approved, let's say a year from now, we lock in the interest rate. We can borrow the money when we need to borrow the money. We're not going to be getting the $60 million at once. And so that's going to help us because we're not going to be drawing down any interest until we actually receive the funds. And then we're only paying interest on the funds that we've received. And so if we're doing a drawdown of $10 million, let's say in 23-24, we're paying the $10 million, the interest on that. And then if for some reason we actually don't need to borrow up to the full 60 million, let's say 50 million, then we're borrowing interest on the 50 million. So that's another advantage of the TIFIA versus the bond. Okay.
Director Adams?
Sounds like a good excuse to drag your feet on the construction. See, the pressure's on if you take the bond. Got to get it on. So,
Fair point. Okay, the next slide is where we're at today in terms of options. The process for the TIFIA loan is preparation of a pre-application or a letter of interest, which we have drafted already, and so we'll be submitting soon. That's no cost to us, and so what happens is the Build America Bureau will then review the pre-application and then give us the green light to submit the application in the fall. And so we'll come back to your board in the fall with another decision point on that. And so then when we submit, then that's when we'd have to commit the $250,000 fee. Or the other option is we can just we can wait. We can wait until a year or two from now, and then start the process there. And then we're hedging our bets in terms of what could happen in interest rates. But if we proceed now, while interest rates are low, then we could lock it in and then see where we are 2 years from now in terms of whether we pull the trigger on the TIFIA or we pull the trigger on the bond issuance. Okay. So we did present this to TTAC, and they were also unsure where we're at in terms of the current situation with interest rates, but they felt that pursuing the TIFIA option was still an option that we should consider. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions from here? Director Rubalcaba?
Thank you. Okay, I'm new to this, so I've got some questions that maybe everybody else knows answers to. The project that we're trying to get financing for, is that something that we're trying to move along right away? And how long do we need to wait? I mean, are we waiting, or do we need to move on with it? And then the thing that, can't pronounce your last name, sorry. Steve.
Oh, Director Lavanino.
Sorry. Steve,
Steve's
thank
good.
you. The concern about it possibly, changing in the future as far as administrative, and I don't know what politics are involved in it as well. And it being a loan, like I said, I don't know too much about this. Could it possibly be denied?
So through the chair, I'll answer the first question. Back to Director Lavanino's question, yes. So we could have the loan approved in spring of 2020 under this current administration. And then if there's a different administration when we have the loan, based on what's going on with other projects and other programs, I can't guarantee that that loan could be there. But I'm hoping that if we do get approved in spring of 2020 and then it's the same administration, then I'm assuming that we'd be able to keep the loan. The second question, or the first question about why we're financed. Oh.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it would be very similar to our bond process, and we would enter into a contract. So once we commit to that, that should be there. I mean, basically, you can't take away a loan after, we've already invested that. So if it gets approved, I can't see it,
Would that be,
yeah.
Go ahead, Director Lavanino.
So timing-wise of getting it approved,
Right.
I mean, that could be whether or not the program exists.
so
Yeah,
like
but
on
as soon-
SB1, we're guaranteed that money
Correct.
until the governor decides it's going to be tied to housing or something else. I'm just
But
saying,
but this is
politics get pretty funky.
This is a loan. So this is, they would have to, this is similar to a bank. It's like a bank. We would enter into a contract, and they would provide us that access to that funding, and we would agree to pay it back. Yeah. So, yeah.
So is there nothing to stop it from, let's say we got approved. So we're locked into the interest rate when we get approved. So if there's an administrative change, would they be able to change that?
Our understanding is no, they would not be able to change that.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, members of
Yes.
the board, I'll just add that when we enter the agreement, some of these questions will probably be answered. There may be exceptions, there may be, I mean, we'll just need to look at the terms of the agreement that they send us for the loan, because that might address some of these questions on whether there's potential for changes.
Any questions from Santa Barbara? Oh, I'm
This
sorry.
is Joan Hartman. I had one. We got a lot of favorable response when we went to D.C. from the Department of Transportation people. We talked about this because we do have the Measure A. We have an ability to pay back, so we've got, so we're secure in that sense. If I just want a clarification, so the difference really between each of these options is, one, the interest rate, and then two, to lock in the interest rate for the TIFIA loan, we would have to put $250,000 down. Is that correct? So that's kind of, today we're just receiving this report, whether or not we should continue to keep this open, but it's that $250,000 that's really kind of binds us then once we make that decision. Is that correct?
Director Hardman, that is correct.
Okay.
And I have a point about that too. In the staff report from the memo from the consultant, one of the ways that they suggested looking at the application fee is as an inflation hedge insurance policy to keep this option open for the future. As Mr. Kachek said, none of us has a crystal ball and knows what the interest rates are going to be at these moments in time in the future. But the memo from the consultant, looking back in time, showed a pretty wide range of interest rates in the past 3 years, and the variance between where the TIFIA loan versus the bond proceeds is only 3/4 of a basis point, which is well within that range of interest rates that have varied over the past 3 years. So my read of that memo is that they're making a case that there's pretty good odds that interest rates are going to change one way or the other in the future by advancing with the TIFIA loan and paying this $250 application fee. We provide at least some insurance hedge on rates going the wrong direction. We may end up losing that $250,000 if we don't choose to pursue the TIFIA loan, but we do provide some upside by having that interest rate lock protection, and that's really what this boils down to, is keeping options alive into the future for a shorter period of time until we see what happens.
Thank you. Director Mosby?
Yeah, just a question. I kind of asked this before, a year or two ago. How do projects get approved without the full funding mechanisms aligned with the projects? And the reason why I ask this is because there might be other projects that other directors might be looking at. I mean, I know you have some Measure A leveraging money, but we already stepped deeply into a project without knowing how we're going to totally fund it. So, I mean, how does this happen and how does this lay out?
Yes, Director, but in terms of the financing or the
whole thing, a project was approved and you didn't have a way to pay for the whole project. It's like buying a house. You're not sure how you're going to pay for this project, and it seems like we're stepping in and we're not. You keep trying to find more money as you've already approved something, leveraging money from before. And I know a lot of the projects in North County seem to be already fully funded and paid for, and weren't planning on this hypothetical money. I mean, because interest rates went way up like this, you probably couldn't fund it.
Well, Madam Chair,
Ms. Kern?
The project was environmentally approved as an entire project. If that's the approval you're talking about, this is done quite often. We approve the entire project because we don't want to be accused of piecemealing or whatnot. Each project phase is approved as it's funded. So we have approved for A, B, and C. This loan is to anticipate our need to match that with our measure dollars, which we have and we're expecting over the next 20 years. But this loan is just to deal with cash flow. So it's because we don't have the revenue in hand right now. It's just like your loan on your house. Because you don't have the revenue from your income up front, you're going to pay your house over a certain amount of years, and it's the same concept for this loan that we're talking about today. So the three segments that have been approved are A, B, and C, and those are fully funded. So D and E have not been approved yet because we don't have funding for them.
Well, it'd be
So-
like moving the moving truck into the driveway, but not being able to move into the house. So it's not.
No, we're
'cause-
moving into the house with A, B, and C.
Right. Well.
So it's
only during
it-
the day, because at night you wouldn't be there.
No,
Because
D and E is the garage that is being leased out to the state.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, would the if hypothetically you only had A, B, and C done, would the project could the project survive just with only part of it being done?
Yes. Yes.
So
There is-
phased out
there,
A, B.
there is independent utility on every phase that we're funding. Yes.
And the reason why I'm looking at this is because potentially there's other projects in other areas, and we want to potentially use the same mechanism of leveraging
Sure.
to get them
Sure.
done. So I think it's important, because it seems like some of the other projects
Yeah.
6, 8, 10 years
Yeah.
ago weren't using the same mechanism, and people could have expanded what needed done,
Yeah,
knowing they had ability
absolutely,
to leverage.
absolutely. Loans are definitely an option when you have a measure program and you have income coming in, just like it is in your personal life when you have a job. So,
Thank you.
Well,
Director Adam?
It seems more like a revenue bond to me. I mean, this is kind of the same way we're paying for Tahigas. And, you know, and I would like to see us move forward at a faster clip. And, you know, this morning, the 10-year went below 2% for the first time in like 4 or 5 years. And so and they're talking about lowering the federal funds rate. You know, I'm not seeing this thing jumping back up. So, you know, I think we should move forward as expeditiously as possible with the bond, because the bond's cheaper if things don't change, right?
Correct.
Yes.
yeah, Madam Chair,
Ms. Kern?
with the bond, you have to expend the funds within 3 years. So the fact that, and with the TIFIA, we have more flexibility of we only take.
Don't you love the pressure, though?
Well, the project's not ready to, I mean, we have to finish design, we have to finish right away, we have our contractor on board. I mean, we are like going
Step
gangbusters.
On the gas. Yeah.
It's a huge, huge project, and these
Get her-
projects take, you know.
As Larry the Cable Guy would say, get her done.
I want to really bad to get this done, but you know.
Director
life-
Lavanino?
life-
Is there any way to, what if, I mean, what could we spend in 3 years? So, I mean, maybe we don't do the full 60 million through, is there a way to split this where you do, you know, you take a 25 or $30 million bond that we know, and then we could apply for a TIFIA loan that's a little bit less?
And we did walk through that with the financial memo that we went through over the last 6 months, and we did look at doing 2 different bonds, one earlier, one later. We decided to use our RSDP cash to eliminate the need for 2 bonds, and so we're talking about the 1 bond at this time. I guess there could be a strategy where you bond sooner and you don't use your cash that you have on hand, and so you borrow and then save everything, but it saved us about $1 million in interest if we used our own cash. So those things are, you know, are great questions, and that's why we're bringing this to you now, because these are the things that we're stirring up, and we're sitting back and saying we don't have a strong recommendation either way between bond or TIFIA today, because they're almost equal at this point in time. So it's like Director Hart said, going TIFIA, you're very conservative, you're locking in your rate, and you could always still do the bond if the rates are lower, if it, you know, pencils out, but you lose your 250,000.
Director Perotti?
I'm also new at all this, so I'm just curious for today's discussion, which I'm learning a lot. Are we being asked to decide which direction we want to go? I mean, is that, or will this be coming back? Is this a final decision?
This
or
is just a presentation today.
Just a presentation.
We're
Okay.
presenting information today because we wanted to update the board that you gave us direction in March to submit the pre-application, which does not cost us anything. So we wanted to let you know that we're doing that, and then come in the fall when we are hopefully receiving the positive feedback that we did on our application, and we're directed by the Build America Bureau to go ahead and submit a final application. Then we're going to come back to you about the $250,000 fee and submittal.
Okay, but I would assume that the feedback, one way or the other, will direct you on which
Correct.
way. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any questions from Santa Barbara? please give your name and then ask the questions. Okay, I'm assuming there's none. Is there any public comment?
We have no public comment.
Any public comment in Santa Barbara?
Thank you.
Okay. Any further board discussion on this?
And I just want to note that there should be extra copies of the slides on the back if somebody wants. Oh, okay. Great. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So no motion is required right now. This was a presentation, and thank you very much for the presentation. Moving on to 1-minute reports. Let's start in Santa Barbara.
Oh, give me a second to pull up my 1 minute report.
I'll go ahead and start. It seems like the city of Santa Barbara streets are all torn up. They are. Our city has a lot of projects, and then Edison, Southern California Edison is doing a lot of work on their downtown resiliency program. So a little shout out to the workers and an apology for the inconvenience to the residents and the businesses and our visitors, but it's a good thing, right? It's all going to be done. We're getting a lot of bridges done on Mission Creek, and been cutting the ribbon on all those old bridges. They were built 100 years ago, our Mission Creek bridges, and the new ones are beautiful and wider and provide more flood control and fish passage, and so we're just going into a big season. We're also flattening out and repaving Mission Street. So for those of you who travel on Mission, be ready for that. And, you know, like our Vision Zero says, leave 5 minutes early, right, to everything. And then that way you're not grouchy when you're on a detour. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And we had a meeting of the Coastal Rail Coordinating Council it was a virtual meeting in 4 locations, dealing with both Coastal Rail legislative update, the LOSAN, and various other matters related to Coastal Rail. It was my first meeting, so I learned a lot. Interesting. Oh, sorry.
Any other 1-minute reports down there? Okay, let's start up here then, Ms. Sierra.
I just have a quick one. I wanted to thank Caltrans. The medium, there's been some work done in Buellton on Highway 246. I asked a question at the last meeting. Scott Eads responded promptly. I see Tim Gubbins has responded as well. I truly appreciate the work that's being done, and it's going to be a big safety bonus for our community. Thank you.
Director Perotti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we passed our budget last Tuesday, so that was a good thing. We just did the groundbreaking for our new athletic field at the Boys and Girls Club and the Community Center, which is very much needed. We've hired a design team for our train depot, and we're doing extensive outreach to the public to see what they would like. And at our Energy and Green Issues Committee, we had an update by Scott Spalding and Kent Epperson on the rail and the progress on really getting the survey out, what we could do as a city to help, and what's being done to promote rail in Goleta and Ventura and Oxnard. And so that's pretty much my report.
Thank you. Director Labanino. Director Mosby.
I'm going to thank Caltrans as well and Scott Eads for getting the information out about the bridge closure and the narrowing of the bridge. It helps us stay in communication, relay it onto the farmers as well about the narrowing. I know some of them have a hard time bringing a harvester across that bridge, so thank you for responding back promptly. As well, Lompok's got a draft budget in front of it passed with no new taxes, so happy to say that one.
Thank you. Director Rubalcava. Director Adam. And in Santa Maria, we also passed our budget and we have 57 new positions, mainly due to the Measure U that we passed in Santa Maria. So there'd be mostly first responders. And Toyota did a groundbreaking yesterday. And so that'll be on the frontage road there of 101. And then on June 4th, we'll be starting the Betaravia road improvements at Highway 101 interchange. That'll be monumental. Okay, next, moving on to the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. In the last week or so, the budget was passed, and a new trailer bill language is being implemented for the housing planning and production grants. This is $250 million of funding available statewide for jurisdictions for housing. Half of that will go directly to the cities and the county, and half of that will go to the regions. The amount going to each jurisdiction is based on your size of your jurisdiction. So smaller agencies are going to get like $65,000, and this is one-time money. And the larger regions, $150, and the Santa Barbara was $300, and Santa Maria is $500,000. And then the 125 going to the regions, it's actually a mega region for our area. It's the Central Coast, so we're going to be working with the other 5 counties in the Central Coast if we decide to take on this funding. The amount coming to the Central Coast is over $8 million. Our share would be about $2.5 million of that. To receive those funds, we will need to develop a policy committee made up of a county rep and 2 cities rep from each of the counties involved. So this is a very detailed item, but I'm going to bring an item to you in July to discuss how we want to proceed and do we want to join in the regional effort and receive these funds and participate in that decision-making process. The timelines are fairly quick. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention today. There'll be a call for funding in August and a deadlines by the end of the year for us to submit what we want to do and how we want to use those funds, and we could get those funds very quickly, and then we have about 2 years to expend those funds. So I know it's a lot of details there about what we can do. I'll have my staff develop a staff report so you can identify what you want to do with those funds and working with your jurisdictions. But again, you're going to get this money directly at your jurisdictional level as well as at the regional level. So I'll be coordinating the regional level because the MPOs are designated as the recipient of this if you decide to participate in this. But this will be an item on your July agenda. Also on your July agenda will be a response to the grand jury report that was recently released about train fatalities in our area. I'll be working with the City of Santa Barbara, City of Goleta, and the County of Santa Barbara in coordinating our responses to that report. It was a very detailed report, which I sent to you last week, but I just wanted to let you know that we have 90 days to respond to that, and my goal is that we don't have an August meeting, so I want to get this before you in July so you can have a chance to approve that before we submit that. Cyclemania, at the end of May, we had our bike challenge results. We had 96 teams participate in the bike challenge this year, which is pretty incredible. We had over almost 17,000 trips done by bike in the month of May. 61,000 miles were logged in the bike challenge. That's 2.5 times around the earth. So I think we should all be proud of ourselves, and the City of Goleta actually won the challenge, and the City of Santa Barbara came in second. So congratulations to our jurisdictions who participated in the bike challenge. I think it was a success in promoting bicycle riding in our area. And I've also just received notification, I think that they're approving it soon, their calendar. The California Transportation Commission, we asked and they accepted our invitation to host a California Transportation Commission meeting at their March 2020 meeting. This will be March 25th and 26th. We think that this is going to be a very special meeting because we're hoping that we'll be asking for an allocation for our 4A for funding. And we'll possibly be done with the Linden Casita. So we could possibly have, I'm gonna say it out loud, and Caltrans going to be kicking me, a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting at the same time. I don't think that's ever been done in the history of our state. So we'd like to do that at the March meeting and have the CTC celebrate with us on those events. So that's our goal, and get her done, right, Peter Adams? So March 2020 is our goal to have those events, and the CTC will be here. And this is a huge deal. Hosting a CTC meeting, I would say about 200 transportation professionals from around our state go to those meetings every time they have them, which is every month or every other month. So, and they spend a few days, and I would guess they would spend the weekend because it's a Wednesday, Thursday. You might as well take Friday off and enjoy the weather in Santa Barbara and enjoy our great time here. So I'm looking forward to that, and my staff and I will be giving you more information. But I wanted to get that on your calendars because I think we all should celebrate that. So again, last but not least, unless there's any objections, I would like to cancel the August meeting, and so you guys can plan your vacations or whatever you want to do in August, and we'll go from there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Caltrans District Director's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to start out with some congratulations to the cities of Carpinteria and to Lompoc, who just received awards of our Sustainable Transportation Planning Grants. This is a program that awarded in this cycle $40.5 million statewide for local agencies to do planning activities that will help us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions associated with lifestyle and transportation habits, in addition to getting ready for climate change and adaptation. In the city of Carpinteria, they will be producing a dune and shoreline management plan. This is part of our adaptation grant program. And the city of Lompoc will be developing a streetscape multimodal improvement plan. So congratulations to you both on that. Progress on the bridges was noted earlier on the 192 bridges that we have, I believe, in Santa Barbara was mentioned that. We're pleased to report that 4 of the 5 bridges that have been under construction will be completed in August, and the 5th one is Montecito Bridge, expecting that one to be done in September. Your project update included in your packet is current, and we've got lots of activity and lots more to do. And we really appreciate your partnership. I would just want to also just acknowledge your staff. On behalf of our district director, we've been participating with your staff at meetings with the CTC commissioners individually and with staff. And the partnership that we have is unparalleled, and it's a great time to celebrate the success that we're having, and we like to have continued success moving forward. That's it.
Thank you. Next, the committee meetings. And we have Director Williams on the CRCC policy meeting.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on that earlier and started telling you about it during the 1-minute reports.
I was not going to call that to your
mistake.
attention.
So the board had a legislative update from our lobbyist, Gus Corey, include continued movement of SB 742, which allows travelers to use the state-supported throughway bus service without being required to purchase a rail ticket. This is especially helpful in our county and in San Luis Obispo County because of the high use in that area. An update from we got an update from SLOCOG staff on the status of the state rail assistance grants received in March. They'll be releasing an RFP in the next month or two to help developing a service implementation plan for the coastal route. There was a short discussion of a potential multi-MPO, I guess, between us and other rail counties. TIRCP grant application, I think we call that TIRCP grants, expected to be due in September or in December. And I provide an update on the Board of Supervisors moving forward about expanding the county's commuter benefit program, which the board did fund in this year's budget passed last week. If you have any questions, you can ask me or Scott.
Thank you. Calavan's board meeting, Director Rubalcaba.
Okay, so this is new to me because I did not know I was on this committee, and I think Director Julian, before he left, when we did the switch, he requested to stay on that, but I don't know what the situation is regarding that. So that's why I'm like, oh, my name's on here.
Oh, okay.
So,
So the Lausanne Pacific.
This is a punishment if you miss a meeting.
Yeah.
As you get stuck on a committee.
well, I was understanding that he was still attending those, so I don't know what's happening with that.
Madam Chair, members of the
Yes.
board.
Ms. Kern.
Thank you. I intend to put an item on your July agenda to discuss the appointment to this committee. If you would like Julian to continue to represent the board, I'm not sure how the reports would come back to you, but, and I'm also referring to legal as well to make sure that we can have somebody that's not on your board represent you at a function like that. So we will bring this back for official action at your next meeting in July.
Thank you. The Lausanne Pacific Surfliner, Director Murillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to thank Director Williams for filling in for me at the CRCC meeting, and I sort of returned the favor sitting in on Lausanne for Director Hart. I'm the alternate for Lausanne, which operates the Pacific Surfliner. For the new people, it's a 9-member JPA, Joint Powers Authority, and that's a service that runs from San Diego to San Luis Obispo. So what we talked about was we're working with Amtrak to secure 6 additional rail cars for use in expanding service. Looking forward to expanded service in the summer when more people take the train. Negotiations are going to add a 6th trip north of Los Angeles, including Santa Barbara County. The managing director gave an update on the status of $200 million in state funding received in 2018 for capital improvements in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, so that's good news. And we had a marketing update, including an overview of a significantly redesigned PacificSurfliner.com website. I mean, and that's the thing about taking video of the train and the ocean. It's all magnificent and beautiful, and so all of their marketing stuff just makes you want to take the train somewhere and get away from your troubles. So, or to a Dodger game. Yes. That's it, Madam Chair. We had a good meeting.
Thank you very much. So no further business from the dais. We will adjourn. The next board meeting will be Thursday, July 18th, beginning at 10 o'clock in Santa Maria. Yes. Thank you. Santa Maria, not Santa Barbara. Santa Maria. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.